In 2022, the Texas Navy Association celebrated its 50th anniversary, marking a half-century of working to preserve the history, legacy, and spirit of the Navy of the Republic of Texas. This offers a good opportunity to look back briefly on the history of the Texas Navy and how it is remembered today. The original, or first, Texas Navy was established by the Provisional Government meeting at San Felipe on the Brazos River in November 1835, just as the Texas Revolution was beginning to pick up steam. The Provisional Government authorized the purchase of 4 small warships, the schooners Liberty, Independence, Brutus, and Invincible. These vessels intercepted Mexican shipping off the Texas coast, captured supplies desperately needed by the Texian army, and conducted raids far to the south along the Yucatan Peninsula, forcing the government in Mexico City to devote resources to protect that coastline, and helping to relieve the threat they posed to Texas. Unfortunately, all 4 of the ships were lost by the fall of 1837. Beginning in late 1838, the Republic of Texas began rebuilding its navy, bigger than before. The new fleet consisted of a ship-rigged sloop of war as the flagship, Austin, 2 brigs, Archer and Wharton, and 3 schooners, San Bernard, San Antonio, and San Jacinto, and a large steamship, Zavala. Because this larger squadron was established more than a year after the loss of all 4 of the Navy's original ships, this force is sometimes called the Second Texas Navy. This Second Texas Navy was very active during the few years of its existence. Under the command of a former U.S. naval officer, Edwin Moore, the Texas Navy formed alliances with rebellion movements in the Yucatan Peninsula that, like Texas, were fighting the centralist Mexican government in Mexico City. This alliance culminated in May 1843 when Moore, commanding 2 Texian warships and a collection of Yucatecan gunboats, defeated 2 Mexican warships, Montezuma and Guadalupe. It is said to be the only time in history that sailing ships defeated steam-powered ships in open combat. But this Second Texas Navy faced even greater challenges than the steamships and shell-firing guns of the Mexican fleet. The Navy was caught between 2 opposed visions of the future of the Texas Republic, embodied in 2 of the Republic's presidents, Mirabeau Lamar and Sam Houston. Lamar, who served from December 1838 to December 1841, envisioned Texas becoming a great continental power, perhaps someday stretching to the Pacific Ocean. Lamar's foreign policy was aggressive, and it was under his administration that the Second Texas Navy was established, outfitted, and took to the seas to harass Mexican shipping and taking Texas' ongoing struggle against Mexico to waters far away from the Texas coast. Sam Houston, who succeeded Lamar in December 1841, had an entirely different view. He remained focused on bringing Texas into the United States, and saw the continual fighting with Mexico on both land and sea to be a barrier to that. Commodore Moore and the Texian Navy posed a particular challenge to Houston's grand strategy, by conducting operations hundreds of miles from the Texas coast, beyond the president's direct control, and actively aiding the rebels in Yucatan. Eventually Houston even proclaimed that Moore and his officers were pirates, to be hunted down and captured by the civilized nations of the world. After the Texian squadron returned from the Battle of Campeche in the summer of 1843, Houston ordered the ships mothballed at Galveston, the officers and crews dismissed, and the remaining Navy stores to be sold off at auction. Moore was court-martialed and acquitted, but it was the end of the Texas Navy as a fighting force. The remaining ships and supplies were transferred to the U.S. Navy after annexation. In 1958, Governor Price Daniel established what became known as the Third Texas Navy, an organization of boat owners that could be called on to protect the integrity of Texas waters and the state's territorial boundaries. Although that mission has faded over the years, the legacy of the Texas Navy is carried on today by the appointment of officers in the Texas Navy by the Governor of the state of Texas. The Texas Navy Association was incorporated by the state as a nonprofit corporation in 1972, committed to the preservation and promotion of the history of the Navy of the Republic, to promote travel to historic sites related to Texas history, and to encourage the participation of other organizations and public entities in these same objectives. As today's Texas Navy Association moves into its second half-century, we look forward to continuing our mission to preserve and promote the historical legacy of the Navy of the Republic, in both traditional and innovative ways. And we call on all Texans with a love of history and an interest in the subject to join us in that journey.